Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. So I've finally come to terms that the possibility of getting delays in some of my most sought, or I would say expected video games might eventually be a good thing for me. Now, I say this on one front, which is Tom Clancy's The Division, or whatever the content we're getting, if it's Division 2 content or Heartland. And then I say it on another front, which is actually another game that I'm kind of looking forward to more than even Division. For some of you who may not know, there is a game that is in the works that we have seen has been announced but has been delayed as well. By the way, this is a list that's written by Digital Trend of video games that have actually received significant delays, and one of my favorite games and upcoming games that I'm looking forward to is on this list. For those of you who don't know, I'm a huge Batman fan. I have an entire channel that I created dedicated to Batman that I worked so hard and released almost 2,000 videos on this channel. Yes, 2,000 videos. And they actually were talking about, one of the Warner Brothers studios, the news was going around that they were working on a Batman themed game or a Superman game. And I followed the trend all the way through when we got a reveal for this game in August of last year. Now, we were expecting this game to come out, but something happened and they postponed the game to 2022. Now, on that front, I'm looking and thinking to myself, this is quite disappointing. This is not something that I envisioned. And then on the front of the Division 2, we're also potentially going to be seeing a delay. Now, I don't know why we're seeing all these delays. I don't know what all is going on, but I was speaking to somebody here in the community, one of my audience members, and also somebody who's very dear to the Division community, and we talk a lot on Twitter, and he said, have you really considered the possibility that the medical issues from last year had much more of a devastating effect than you're willing to admit? And I said to myself, this is quite crazy because I'm looking at two different fronts, two different niches, two different kinds of games, two different publishers. I'm talking studios that are far removed in their development style. The games are different, and both these games somehow have potentially significant delays. I'm saying potentially in the case of the Division Heartland and even the Division 2's content that's supposed to come out in this particular fiscal year. And so I thought to myself, that might actually be the deal. Also, I started doing some more digging. I was speaking to another content creator here in the community as well. We were talking on the phone and I said, let me go and check Respawn's website and see what their game development hirings look like. And behold, it seems like they've added a lot more positions for developers that they actually want. When I last checked, it didn't seem like they wanted to hire too many developers, like they had their team set up, but it seems now they're hiring more and more people. So there are multiple explanations for that. It could be that they're hiring more people because they know that they're working on a project and they want to get a new project off the ground, or they're getting more people in to finish up a project that they're working on. Either way, you're seeing people also leave in other studios. You're seeing that we've, had some of our community developers leave Massive. We've also had a senior designer leave. Now we have a community manager, by the way. So, take that into account. That's something that is actually, in stone. We now have a community manager with the Division. But these things continue to kind of have me go, what in the world is going on? In fact, I've become some sort of I've just found myself in a weird position where I'm now checking, Twitter. I'm looking at all the developers and, because sometimes they'll talk about their work, seeing if they're talking about any of their projects that they're working on or even other projects, and they're not even saying anything. They are just silent. They've gone radio silent on anything regarding video games. So I guess this is pretty much where we are. It's either these particular issues when it comes to the game development and how 2020 was looking and the amount of momentum that was lost from all of 2020 has really affected and cascaded into a potential delay that we're going to be seeing even all the way through next year. And we as gamers probably have not necessarily realized that that's something very significant. So imagine even games that were being worked on that will probably not come out for the next 2 years, like Grand Theft Auto 6. Imagine what that 8 months, 1 year of lag time has probably done to a project like that. I think a project like that has basically suffered unnecessarily, because if you go back and think about it, that game has lost a lot of development time, and 1 day in development world is absolutely insane to just lose just because many a times you couldn't get your team to come into work together. This is not even them working from a remote location. This is them working together, because that working together aspect of developing games is what really makes the process good. Because the game designer, if they need help or if they need something and they want to make a quick decision, they can talk to the creative director really quick and get a quick decision on a direction they want to move, rather than go through the process of making sure that they're not in some Zoom meeting or whatever it is. Again, I have to also take a very deep look as well at kind of, when these delays started to rear their heads. Now, here is kind of a timeline and a window of these delays and how they just started to, basically pervade all of the industry. I think one of the very first delays that we saw was Cyberpunk 2077. Now, Cyberpunk 2077, its delays were more technical, and the fact that overhype kind of came into the picture, and they didn't necessarily have a game, that was going to be ready to play for the PlayStation on release. So that was its own unfortunate situation. But then we saw a game like Outriders. Outriders got had a December release date. Then it went to February. Then it went to April. And so this was kind of an interesting thing, but they still were able to launch the game. And so I would say thumbs up to them. As much as I'll tell you that Outriders, which people kind of touted was going to be this thing that destroyed the division, yada, 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 I still want to give credit, because to release a video game is no small feat. I think it was probably a miraculous thing almost that they were able to get this game out. And then other games started to follow suit. We saw Returnal also get a delay. We saw, I'm talking about more of the AAA games. New World had received so many delays and pushbacks. And then Deathloop is one that still hasn't come out. This is a game that Sony, I think, even were trying to get an exclusive on right before Microsoft bought Bethesda. So that game looks like Sony is quite interested and will be a game that more than likely attracts a lot of attention. And then Riders Republic also got a delay. And by the way, this is significant because this studio, actually the studio that made this game, they developed our Iron Horse Raid. They had a team that actually worked on Iron Horse Raid. So they also got a delay in their own game that they were supposed to release. Halo also got a delay. Rainbow Six Extraction also got a delay. And so these delays, they started to kind of prop their head even as early as 2020, right in the middle of all the medical issues. And I think that's very pertinent, because these delays propping up in 2020, even, Gotham Knights, we were all very suspicious that Gotham Knights was definitely going to be getting a delay. That was for sure. We were like, yeah, Gotham Knights is going to get a delay. There's no doubt that Gotham Knights is going to get a delay. And, we basically saw that coming from a distance, because even from the trailer that we saw, that was kind of a hype building, mechanism. And then now you have a game like Avatar, where Ubisoft is saying that this game is going to be coming out next year, which we, for some reason, I think is actually more plausible that Avatar will release next year, because it's been in development way longer. The team basically got everything that they needed. I mean, this game is a flagship of the success of The Division, by the way, because even the managing director of Massive said once Ubisoft realized that The Division was actually a successful game, they started asking them what they needed, and they gave them a brand new building. They basically moved the team in there. They called the building Eden. That's the name of the massive building that they actually moved a bunch of the team into for starters. And I think they started moving the rest of, their operations into that building as well. So again, what would this yield? I think this is a good thing for us, the gamers. I think what's going to happen is this is more than likely going to yield quality in games that are going to be released in this particular window. So what do I mean? You see, companies like Ubisoft have gotten away a lot with their release now, fix later mentality. A game like Rainbow Six Extraction, they gave some early access to some content creators and YouTubers to actually play the game. And they were like, oh, here's the first 15 minutes. We and our guys are playing together. That cringy multiplayer thing that they try to do. And they did that. So the game was in a place that it was playable. But then they delayed the game. So what could be the issue? It could be one of multiple issues. But more than likely, I think there were probably aspects of the game that they probably didn't have that was nailed down. Because this game is supposed to have a cross-platform when it comes out. It's supposed to have this cross-play from everywhere. Everybody can just jump in because it's a PvE game. And I think they were trying to fine-tune that and probably did not need any of that blowback of bringing out a game that didn't have all its systems set before going. So now that these video games have been scarce, these AAA games have not been dropping like flies or dropping like, ice cream. everyone is now paying more attention and scrutinizing these games very more intently. In fact, if you think about Outriders got a huge scrutiny. Even Cyberpunk got huge scrutiny as well, because people were expecting a solid product and they didn't get that. And so anybody that's making a AAA game right now that brings out a shoddy product is definitely more than likely not going to live it down very easily. These are not the days where there are many different games that people can just get distracted by while your own little game, basically did not do a good job. I think these are the times where every studio and every developer really needs to fine-tune their games before they even let it touch the market. So what I think Ubisoft is going to do, and I think this is what we're going to see in the Division, is we're more than likely going to be seeing betas, tests, alphas, maybe even PTSs in the case of the Division 2, because these studios are going to be very careful now, because there's been such a drought. Even though players may be hungry, it doesn't mean that there's a lack of games. There are still indie games that have still filled them, but players are now more intently watching what's going on. And I strongly believe that this is actually good for gamers. We'll more than likely be coming out getting a more polished product. And, and this is from multiple fronts. I'm speaking from, based on the Batman themed game and even the Division themed game that, might be delayed. And I think this is probably where we stand right now. So this is the positive side of things. I mean, there might be a worst case scenario where we get none of these till 2023. Oh no. Hey, whatever. There's still many, many games out there that are still going to be shipping. Small studios don't have to deal with all the bureaucracy. They have small teams, so they can work and they can drop games. So I think we're still going to be seeing games still get released without a problem. All right, that's it for me. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. So talk to me. Thank you so much for listening. Peace out.